Probably many of you have been considering whether you should go back to school during an economic recession. So today we will figure out 5 reasons why you should consider going back to school during this time. While knowledge is always powerful, going back to school may incur a lot of student debt. That's why today we will sit down and explore 5 reasons why you should go back to school during an economic recession. If any of these 5 reasons is applicable to you, then it's maybe time to go back to school. A mentor of mine once told me if he could go back in time and tell his younger self something, that would be to strike a balance between being idealistic and realistic. You don't want to spend so much money and so much time doing something, just later on realize that you cannot get a job without education. On the other hand, because you spend so much time working in your life, you have to make sure that you do something you truly enjoy, and that's how you can overcome all the hardship along the way. So today, let's make sure going back to school during this time is truly beneficial to you. Now, the first reason, which is also the reason why I chose to go back to school to do my master right after I finished my bachelor and got a full-time job. That's it. You get some kind of financial assistance either through scholarship or your employer financial support. In my case, I wrote a business case to my current employer and convinced them to sponsor my master degree. If you want me to share some of my tips when I wrote a business case and how I convinced the senior management team to sponsor 100% of my tuition cost, just leave a comment below. Education is always powerful, especially when it's debt-free to go back to school, right? You may not be fortunate enough to get some kind of scholarship from the school that you want to attend or some financial support from your employers. No worries, we're gonna consider the second reason for you, which is also a really good reason to go back to school during this time when it's so hard to get a job right now. When your dream profession really needs an advanced degree in order to pursue that job. For example, if you just finished your Bachelor of Psychology and everybody knows it's so hard to get a job with just a bachelor degree in psychology, because in order to become a counselor, a psychologist, you need at least a master degree. So this is a perfect time for you to go back to school to get that master degree. Another instance is when you want to become a professor and you just currently finished your master or looking for a job, and in order to teach in bigger schools, you really need a PhD degree, then this is also a great time for you to go back to school. The third reason is that it could lead to more substantial earning power for you. So one of the reasons why I chose to go back to school and do my master right after I finished my bachelor and working full-time at the time, which is honestly a lot of work. If you also want me to share some tips about work-life balance during the time I did my master while working full-time, just leave a comment below. In particular, the average salary for an information system analyst in Avatar, the province that I'm living right now, is about 90k a year. However, if I successfully finish my master degree in information technology management, my potential income could be about 110k a year in average. The fourth reason is when you need that degree to achieve your goals. In my case, I want to apply to become a permanent resident, and the program that I was qualified for when I only have a bachelor degree took about 18 months or even longer to get my permanent residency in Canada. That's why I was really impatient and tried to finish off my master degree to apply for another immigration program, which only takes me maximum 6 months to get my permanent residency status in Canada. Last but not least, when you really want to switch to a new field of expertise. For example, after working in retail industries for about 10 years with minimum wage, you got tired of it and you want to switch to another industry that may give you some money so you can spare during your retirement, and you chose to switch to computer science. Now this is a perfect time for you to go back to school computer science degree. If you find my video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification bell to get updated for my upcoming videos. I make videos about immigration, career, life and technology to my journey to become a global citizen. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck and bye.